Right, joined now by energy expert Ruse Moleshe, who will give us what she thinks the minister is saying there. For the very first time, the minister seems to not have some kind of convincing answer of the situation when it comes to Koeberg. One would say maybe we should applaud him for being brutally honest, but I don't know whether we should be worried about the fact that he himself also is not certain about the return of Unit 1. What's your analysis?
Good evening to you and good evening to the viewers. The challenge that the minister is alluding to is the fact that generally, as we already know, that the Eskom system is constrained significantly. And so they've been working around the clock as Eskom and the board of Eskom to make sure that they increase the generation capacity to be able to meet the current demand. And Koeberg is one of the key elements of that increase in the supply side of Eskom. And any delays in that unit, with Unit 1 being returned, where it will affect the fact that, as the minister alluded to, will affect the fact that the Unit 2 is expected, I think it's September this year, is expected to be off. That will mean that we'll have almost 2 stages of load shedding if those 2 units are out at the same time. Whereas if Unit 1 was back and then Unit 2 was put off again for the long-term planned outage, then at least we would have 920 megawatts off as expected. So that's the biggest challenge. And the more we have capacity that's not available, the more we rely on diesel, which is not sustainable and impacts negatively on finances, Eskom's finances.
Is this delay something that could have been anticipated, or is this something that I suppose is inevitable, maybe because of supply chain challenges or maybe any other delay that could come into play here?
The challenge is we don't know really what the actual delay, as the minister was saying, that he himself has not been able to get the exact answers to say what is the cause of that delay. Is it the fact that, we know that the chief nuclear officer at Koeberg left for greener pastures overseas? Do they have capacity issues? We don't know, because it's very clear what needs to be done. It's the steam generator, which is one of the major equipment that we're supposed to be put in. So we don't know what are the other additional issues that are causing that delay.
And what would that, I suppose, mean? Would that mean it's a leadership problem, somebody not doing or at least keeping tabs on what needs to happen at what point, and therefore responding adequately enough on time to ensure that we keep to our target?
So because we know that the chief nuclear officer left, and then we know that Mr. Oberhauser was part of the team that was supposed to assist here, and he's also recently left Eskom, I guess we would be speculating, but that would not be something that's something that one would wonder if it doesn't have that kind of an impact, because it's critical to have all the resources around the table with the experience that is required. So that could be one of the problems. But to be honest with you, because they are not saying, we are not 100% sure what the issue is, but we know that the impact is going to be negative for South Africans.
All right, finally, let's just stay with that. The real danger, as you mentioned, is that there might be an overlap between the delayed return of Unit 1 and the taking out of Unit 2 for refurbishment. I know it's not something that we want to do because of our experience, but would there be a possibility of delaying the taking out of Unit 2 for refurbishment if Unit 1 doesn't come back, or is it something that must happen?
It must. If there is a delay, the delay can't be too long. I don't think there would be a delay, because there is a license issue that relates to the timelines. So if they delay it too long, it could affect then the timelines for the licensing, which is what Koeberg is supposed to be ready for to be able to operate for an additional 20 years. So if there is some delay in terms of that, it can't be long.
Let's talk then about the other units that are keeping on tripping. And it was during the coldest days in South Africa when we learned that demand, of course, went up. And we saw a tripping of about 8 units that we were told about, which escalated the stages of load shedding once again to close to stage 6 of load shedding. What could be behind this tripping? Is it, one, the quality of our maintenance that we are doing on these units that are constantly making them unreliable, or is it the quality of the products from the original equipment manufacturers that we are receiving?
No, it's a combination of things. We know that in the past that the reliability maintenance that had been promised when Andre Director took charge at Eskom had not been done according to plan and according to the annual reports that Eskom put out. So the new board had then come in and indicated that they are creating some improvements. But I think that is taking time for those improvements to show. There are some improvements in terms of the energy availability factor, but as you correctly point out, when we saw some of the improvements, the demand was relatively lower. So winter, especially very cold winter, comes with an increase in the demand, and that puts a strain on the system. And so it's a combination of different things. Outage management, for instance, was one of the things that for a short period, Eskom looked like they were on top of. But as we all know, these are complex plants. Reliability has to be tested over a long period of time. We may have celebrated too quickly because we need to give time for all the maintenance that is happening to take effect. So it's a combination of things, outage management, where plant is taken off and there's a timeline that is envisaged and it doesn't come through. We know that in the past there were issues with OEM procurement of parts. That could also still be another issue that's affecting performance.
One of the things that the minister said, not in this briefing, but at least I heard him say in the previous briefing, is that one of the biggest challenges to these Eskom units currently is boiler leaks. How is that supposed to be addressed adequately? Is there something that we need to do that we're currently not doing to address that adequately?
It's difficult to say because, I mean, if boiler leaks, they would happen. You can't anticipate them. And so, but we know that Sasol has adequately been able to address some of those problems with their old coal-fired power plants. So it depends on, as we say, whether there's an overhaul or modernization of the plants that has happened or not. So those are the things that Eskom would need to look at to see if they can have a long-term sustainability within those plants. But it will take time. There are a number of plants, there's a number of time. As we say, there has not been proper maintenance done over a long period of time. So to redress that is not going to be something that happens quickly, especially when you then face winter where you have to reduce your maintenance to be able to meet the demands that you have. So it's going to take a bit of time for Eskom to be on top of matters.
Ruse Moleshe, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. Energy expert there helping us with that analysis.